Hello everyone, Gijoe here, and welcome to my bunker in Atlanta, Georgia. I wanted to give you a brief rundown of our first round of game that we played this evening with two new friends who are new to the Axis&Allies gaming community. My gaming group is growing slowly but surely. I've been working with now, today was the second and third guy who are wanting to learn how to play. So my gaming group is growing, and glad to say that I have two others that are interested in learning as well. So it looks like we might be up close to 5 here once I work with the others as well. But I thought I'd show you the results of our first round. It took a long time to play this round because it was very slow and I was trying to teach them along the way, but nonetheless I thought I'd show you kind of the results that we have thus far. So I played the Allies, and along with one of my friends who has never played Axis and Allies before, and the other friend played the Axis, and he has played Axis and Allies before, only it was the 1941 game that was the kind of watered down beginner version. So he was familiar with pieces and units and their movements and attack values. However, of course, the global 40 strategy and political ramifications and such was all new to him. So nonetheless, this was a learning process for both of them, but I was just thrilled to death that they wanted to be a part. So here are the results from kind of the first round. My one friend, he played Germany, and he bought, I think, a couple infantry and some tanks, or several infantry and some tanks actually, and he decided to go into France, of course. But in doing so, he used some of his fighters and actually shot one down, which is not recommended by many people. In fact, if you watch one of Sired Blood's videos on German strategy, he talks about not using your fighters for Germany because typically France might occasionally knock one of those down. So, and that's exactly what happened. And because of that, Germany was not able to take out the British Navy. And guys, this, of course, is why you have to take out the British Navy in the first round. If I recall, back to even the classic game, Germany's first move was to take out the British Navy. So not a lot has changed over the last 30-something years. But because Germany did not take out the British Navy, my other friend who played Britain, of course, started to gather all the Navy there, and my friend who played Germany totally just wasted his submarines. He didn't use them at all. He just kind of gathered them together up there. So, of course, we talked about this after the game was played and they had to go. But, you know, we're learning, and I'm sure that will get better next time. As you can see, he did not attack Russia, so he kept the non-aggression pact intact, and anticipating a future attack, I was playing Russia, and I decided to kind of start to reinforce down here where my industrial complexes were, and to kind of come up with some type of strategy to thwart Sired Blood's kind of Cobra Kai, where Germany comes into southern Russia here and goes for the industrial complexes down here in the south. But we didn't get a chance to actually battle through this because, like I said, they had to leave. But that's kind of what happened with Germany. And as I said, this is the result of Germany leaving the British Navy alone in the first round, which, as you can see, cannot happen. All right, so also in Europe, my friend who played Britain, UK, he bought, I think, some transports, a couple infantry, maybe a fighter. I can't remember everything he did there, but he just kind of stacked them there. And then he came down here to North Africa, and what he did was he actually did an interesting move, perhaps not one that I would have done, but I could definitely tell that he was thinking and trying to use different pieces in different ways, which was very encouraging, which means I think eventually this will be a pretty good gaming group. But he brought the cruiser from C-Zone 91 over into this C-Zone, along with the destroyer from 98, and he took out the, I believe it was the destroyer and transport that was in this C-Zone. the rest of the Navy here, he with the transport, he picked up an infantry and artillery and brought them in and dropped them in here. I'm sorry. Yes, in Tobruk, and then used the cruiser that was in 98 as an offshore bombardment, along with the fighter from Malta and the tactical bomber, to attack the Italian troops here, and was successful. So right off the bat, he got experience in doing naval battle before an amphibious landing, and he coordinated air forces with amphibious landing, offshore bombardment, and some land forces. So right off the bat, I got to see how he thinks, and that he was thinking well beyond just typical basic movements of pieces, which was very encouraging. So I definitely gave him props for that. Now, this might not be a move that I would traditionally do. Of course, you see he did not do Taranto, which he's probably not familiar with. But nonetheless, I like the fact that he was thinking out of the box and using the pieces in more advanced ways, as opposed to just moving an infantry or tank one or two spaces forward. He didn't really mess with anything down here in South Africa, other than the fact of he did purchase one transport on his turn and put it here, because he asked me a few questions, so it was evident that he wanted to get these guys out of South Africa and probably get them somewhere up in here. I'm not really sure. Over here in the Pacific, he went ahead and he did not declare war on Japan. Japan had already attacked UK Pacific in the first round, so that caused a state of war between UK, ANZAC, and Japan. So because of that, he went ahead and kind of was coming up here to reinforce China a little bit, moving his pieces forward. And once again, he was kind of creative in how he thought. He wanted to attack here, Siam, with the Japanese troops. However, he didn't have any land pieces, because the land pieces were over here in Burma. So he took his transport, brought them over here, dropped them off, did an offshore bombardment, and then these were the pieces that came from India. He brought an infantry and artillery along with the bombardment, and took out those Japanese pieces along with his fighters, and then they flew up in here to land and support China. So again, perhaps a move that I wouldn't have done, but nonetheless, I like the way that he was thinking, and he was definitely using pieces in perhaps a more advanced way than a typical beginner, at least. Now, my friend who played the Axis, he played Japan. He was kind of doing, the typical Japan moving forward into China. He got up in here and took this as well. He left Hong Kong alone, and he left America alone. He kept the United States out of the war. However, he did this, his attack to bring UK and ANZAC in was he took Borneo to get some more money, and then he did this wacky move right before he had to leave. He just wanted to move some pieces and some navy and didn't have time to come up with a really sound strategy, so he just decided to bring his carrier down here and do some wacky fight down here, and got wiped off and lost his planes and stuff. So obviously not something that is encouraged, and we talked about that afterwards before he left. But what was encouraging to me, again, he had never played Global 40, but right off the bat, when he was getting ready to buy his pieces, he looked at his chips and saw he only had 26 IPCs, and the first comment he made was, Japan needs more money. I need to take some territory and get some money. So even though he has never played this version, he realized the importance of developing a strategy for Japan to gain some territory in China and both down here in the Dutch East Indies, so that he could get some money so he could purchase some more units. He purchased 2 cruisers, which again is unconventional and something that I wouldn't have done. But nonetheless, those are the moves he made. And now my friend who played the UK, also I I told him I wanted him to play the United States because I wanted him just to get used to using pieces and moving stuff so that he could learn. And one thing that I liked about this was his purchase was an aircraft carrier. So he purchased an aircraft carrier, 2 transports, and I think he got a fighter and a couple guys and a couple other things, and of course he put a few pieces over here in the eastern United States. But what I liked about this was that, again, this is the guy who has never played Axis and Allies, and his first purchase was right on par with, I think, what you should be doing, which was an aircraft carrier. Now, after his turn and before he had to leave to go home, we talked about how he was on the right move and how he might want to consider in the future buying another aircraft carrier or even a battleship to go along with it. But I liked the way he was thinking. He did reinforce Hawaii with the rest of his Navy without any type of prompting or leading or help and assistance in that. And to me, what was the coolest thing that he did, and again, this is somebody who has never played Axis and Allies, just through asking questions and such, he realized that the Japanese Navy could reach Honolulu on one turn because of their naval base that they have there. So he decided to put a destroyer and a cruiser here in Midway, realizing that this is the only way that Japan could get to Honolulu in one turn. And several people have talked about putting up blockers. I know Young Grasshopper has, Sired Blood, and others. And that was, I thought, fascinating, especially for somebody who has never played the game before. So now, I probably wouldn't have put the cruiser in there, because then you're just wasting that piece as well. You're basically putting 2 pieces up for cannon fodder. But the fact that he put up a blocker and gave himself one more turn before Japan could do any type of sneak attack on Hawaii, again, was very encouraging to see how his mind is working and trying to come up with strategies, and then also anticipating what another country might do. So anyways, this is just the first kind of training session, or basic training session, with these 2 guys, these 2 friends of mine. So I'm very pleased with to see how they are thinking and coming up with different ideas and strategies. So I'm excited to see how this gaming group is going to work out. But anyways, I just wanted to come on real quickly and show you the results of this. And again, we didn't really get through a first round. As you can see right here, we got all the way down to Italy before they had to leave. And you can tell that because Italy hasn't even had a chance to counterattack and take care of the British Navy in the Mediterranean. But nonetheless, they were here for about 4 hours, but I spent about the first hour and a half just explaining the basics of the game and movements, and explaining the map and sea zones and all those kinds of things. And then after that, we actually spent about the next 45 minutes all setting up the game. The game board had not been set up yet, and I was kind of regretting that I had done it that way. I apologized several times for not having the game board set up already. Had some stuff to do with my daughter today, but it turned out being a great thing, because what happened was, as we were all setting up the game together, they were asking me questions and they were getting to know the pieces. So like my friend would say, okay, what does the TCB stand for, or whatever? And I say, well, that's a tactical bomber. And so so they were starting to learn the pieces and where the different countries were while we were setting up the game. So anyways, it turned out that having them help me set up the game was beneficial. But nonetheless, I just thought I'd show you this, and hopefully we'll have more of these to come soon. And hope you enjoy, and we'll talk to you soon, guys. Thanks.